So, Namaste. Hello students, welcome to Avinaash Polity Insights. This is the lecture number 6. This is the lecture number 6. We are covering Charter Act of 1853. Earlier we covered Charter Act of 1833. There we covered whatever is stated in 1833, and also we have touched on to the terms and concepts what is the difference between centralization and decentralization, the relevance to the our very polity subject, and also what is trustee and some miscellaneous stuff. And we try to expand as much as possible. So basically, this is a lecture Charter Act of 1853. You can also join my Telegram channel with Avinaash Polity Insights, AVINAASH Avinaash Polity Insights for notes and updates. I usually also upload the MCQs as well. So what we're going to understand in this lecture is first a background, of course, and then factuals, contemporary times related to India as well as the world. We also will going to touch the concepts like the difference between legislative and executive functions. Very important concept, the terms in the polity itself. Then direct and indirect representation, क्या होता है वो, what is council and councillors, okay. So let's understand. So Charter Act of 1853, as I mentioned, why we read like this. So if you have not watched the earlier video, please watch and understand my approach as well, how I'm going to teach, and those are all self-made notes. Okay, so let's begin. So Charter Act of 1853. So monarch कौन थी? क्वीन विक्टोरिया 1837 से लेके 1901. So at that time प्राइम मिनिस्टर जॉर्ज हैमिल्टन गॉर्डन 1852 से लेके 55. पॉलिटिकल पार्टी पिलाइट विग, गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ इंडिया लॉर्ड डलहौजी 1848 से लेके 56 तक था. So basically what it is, so the last Charter Act passed by the British Parliament to regulate the affairs of East India Company. This was the last Charter Act passed by the British Parliament to regulate the affairs of the East India Company. The company's rule ended after the revolt of 1857. इसके बाद तो revolt of 1857 ही हुआ ना. So that's why, and that's how it becomes the last Charter Act passed by the British Parliament. So let's understand the regulation, administrations and whatnot. So regulation of East India Company, this was the last legislative intervention before the Crown took over. Okay, this was the last legislative intervention before the Crown took over, marked the beginning of the end of company rule in India. Administrative changes there, separation of powers and creation of central legislative council and local representation introduced हुआ. ठीक है. So administrative changes में separation of powers हम point 1 ले रहे हैं यहाँ पे. तो for the first time, whenever you read the first time, only shall like things. So while reading polity, so be more focused what it is, right? Like always highlight. So for the first time, the legislative and executive functions of the Governor General's Council were separated. लेजिस्लेटिव एग्जीक्यूटिव फंक्शन जो थे गवर्नर जनरल काउंसिल के, उसको अलग किया गया. ठीक है. लेजिस्लेशन बिकम अ डिस्टिंक्ट फंक्शन. क्रिएशन ऑफ सेकंड पॉइंट, क्रिएशन ऑफ सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल. इट फंक्शनड एज अ मिनी पार्लियामेंट. एक मिनी पार्लियामेंट की तरह फंक्शन करने लग गया सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल. 6 मेंबर्स थे, 6 मेंबर्स वर एडेड फॉर लेजिस्लेटिव वर्क कॉल्ड लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिलर्स. So what is the council? Councilors means and everything I am uncovering in this lecture itself. ये terms ये है और day to day life में हमारे आते हैं. So of course we will cover what it means and we will cover and understand once and for all. Okay. So it functions as a mini parliament. 6 members were added for legislative work called legislative councillor. Local representation introduced. So for the first time, Indian got indirect representation in legislation. 4 out of 6 members were nominated by provincial government like Madras, Bombay, Bengal, Agra. See, now here there are certain terms. What is direct representation, indirect representation, legislative, executive, then council, councillors. Yes, we are covering this in this very lecture right now. So local representation introduce किया गया. पहली बार indirect representation आया, इंडियंस को मौका मिला indirect representation legislation में. 6 में से 4 लोगों को नॉमिनेट किया गया, इलेक्टेड नहीं किया गया. ऑलवेज रिमेंबर, नॉमिनेट किया गया बाय प्रोविंशियल गवर्नमेंट्स लाइक मद्रास, बॉम्बे, बंगाल एंड आगरा. व्हाट इट मीन्स we will understand later. Okay, in this very lecture itself. सो अदर की चेंजेस क्या है, जैसे ओपन कंपटीशन फॉर सिविल सर्विसेज आया, पहले प्रपोज किया था, इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं हुआ, ओके 33 में. सो this is 53. So open competition for civil services. The act introduced merit-based recruitment through open competitive exams. Indian civil services was thus open to Indians. Very interesting. 1853. Hmm. So जब भी एमसीक्यूज में वगैरह पूछे, सवाल पूछे, सो इट्स ऑलवेज 1853. ट्विस्टिंग वर्ड्स है, अगर प्रपोज पूछा तो 33, इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पूछा तो 53. ओके, तो सिग्निफिकेंस क्या था, यही 4 सिग्निफिकेंस है कि एक्ट का. लेट द फाउंडेशन ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्री गवर्नमेंट इन इंडिया गिव बर्थ टू द इंडियन सिविल सर्विसेज, इंट्रोड्यूस लोकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन इन लेजिस्लेटिव अफेयर्स, mark the first step towards Indian involvement in administration. So this is the only 4 significance. We will understand, we will keep this in mind in one line itself, and how we will keep it, we will understand as well. So foundation, but to the Indian civil services, local representation, first step towards the Indian involvement in administration. Those are the only significance. तो उसी टाइम में इंडिया में क्या चल रहा है, इंपॉर्टेंट इवेंट अंडर लॉ डलहौसी 1848 से लेके 1856 में था ये. तो इंक्लूडेड annexation policy and doctrine of lapse, Woods dispatch 1854, the revolt of 1857, doctrine of lapse, revolt of 1857. ये सब में काफी मूवीज बने. इंटरेस्टिंगली आई वुड सजेस्ट गो वॉच दैट मूवी, सो यू विल कम टू नो एंड इट विल जस्ट कनेक्ट while you are attempting the exam, you know, so it will just connect very easily. So these are the important event happened at the time of Lord Dalhousie. So contemporary world में क्या चल रहा था, events क्या चल, the continued unification of Germany 1914 तक हमने we have seen it earlier. ठीक है, एक critical thinking रखना होता है while we are reading also. So always ask yourself certain questions while reading polity. It's one of the major thing that will actually contribute to your knowledge and critical thinking. Ask this one question, it is for an example. Why do you think the British introduced open competition for civil services just 4 years before the revolt? This encouraged critical thinking on British motives. Always 4 साल पहले हो गया ना यार, तो ऐसा क्या, they saw it coming or something. So while you will going to read history, you will understand the reasons also why. So always read history like this as well. It should not be read one-sidedly. You have to be very critical. So why do you think the British introduced open competitions for civil services just 4 years before the revolt? So let's come to some terms and concepts. It's a very interesting thing. So we have to understand once and for all. Very important. So let's legislative functions and executive functions में difference क्या होता है. Legis एग्जीक्यूटिव, ठीक है, तो नाम में ही अगर इफ यू फोकस इनफ, इफ यू वाइज इनफ, यू विल अंडरस्टैंड सर्टेन थिंग्स बाय नोमेनक्लेचर. नाम से आप समझ जाओगे, विल अंडरस्टैंड बाय नेम दैट लेजिस्लेटिव इज रिलेटेड टू लॉ मेकिंग, वेयर एग्जीक्यूटिव टू इम्प्लीमेंटिंग द लॉ, एक्सिक्यूटिंग थिंग्स. ओके, सो लेजिस्लेटिव फंक्शंस मीनिंग इज मेकिंग लॉज एंड फ्रेमिंग रूल्स. एक्सिक्यूटिव फंक्शंस मीनिंग इज इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एंड एनफोर्सिंग दोज लॉज. लेजिस्लेटिव क्या करता है, लॉ बनाएगा, रूल्स फ्रेम करेगा, एग्जीक्यूटिव उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करेगा, एनफोर्स करेगा. लेजिस्लेटिव हु परफॉर्म्स इट, लेजिस्लेटिव फंक्शन इन हु परफॉर्म्स इट. तो पार्लियामेंट परफॉर्म्स, स्टेट लेजिस्लेचर परफॉर्म्स, लेजिस्लेटिव काउंसिल्स परफॉर्म्स. इन एग्जीक्यूटिव हु परफॉर्म्स इट, प्रेसिडेंट, प्राइम मिनिस्टर, काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर, ब्यूरोक्रेट्स, ब्यूरोक्रेसी, गवर्नर्स एक्सेट्रा. In legislative functions, power involves what? Law-making power, of course. So in executive functions, power involves administration and governance. Legislative functions, nature of role is deliberative and policy making, whereas in executive functions, the nature of role is administrative and operational. Legislative functions, example, passing a law on education. That's what legislative functions is. Whereas in executive functions, opening government school, appointing teachers, releasing funds, those are the executive functions. You are understanding a difference right now, what executive means and what legislative means. When we talk, whenever we read the word legislature, legislative, executive, now you are not supposed to get difference. Executive is executing what has been framed, what has the law, like executing the rules, implementing the laws. That's what the executive function, legislative, who actually makes the laws, who frames the rules. Okay, so as per Indian constitution, like if we see, so both comes into the same part. Legislative functions in Indian constitution covered mainly in part 4 and part 5, legislature at union and state level, as well in executive function in Indian constitution covered in part 5 and part 6, executive at union and state level. Both are the same, part 5 and part 6. One covers the legislature, union and state, and another covers executive, union and state. So this is what it is, and let's understand in simple words. Legislative function क्या बोलता है? What should be done? They decide the law or policy, या क्या करना चाहिए. And executive functions क्या बोलता है? How should it be done? They carry out the law. कैसे करना चाहिए? Legislative बोलेगा क्या, executive बोलेगा कैसे. How should it be done? So in context of 1853 Act, earlier the Governor General Council performed both functions together. Right, now we are coming back to the 1853 Act. Earlier Governor General's Council performed both functions together. Legislative function भी कर रहा था, executive function भी कर रहा था. Charter Act of 1853 separate कर दिया ना, separated the legislative function and created a distinct legislative council. Okay, making administration more structured, a step towards modern democracy. We just saw it as a mini parliament. The legislative council become mini parliament, right? So this is how it is functioning. Making administration more structured, a step toward modern democracy. There is another concept, direct and indirect representation is very important to understand. Open honesty in the aspirant getting confused, direct and indirect, and I have literally saw a witness actually. So some students are like, with the president, I have not elected the president, why I should, why he is governing me and everything. There are certain reasons to it. We will cover in upcoming lecture why it is that, but just understand what it is. So like indirect representation and indirect representation. So indirect representation meaning is citizens directly elect their representatives. ठीक है, indirect election, the meaning is citizens elect an intermediate body which then elects the representative. For example, we open हम MLA को वोट करते हैं, MP को वोट करते हैं, then वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर चूज करता है, फिर वो लोग मिलके प्रेसिडेंट को ये करते हैं. दैट्स इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्शन. इंडिया में दोनों चल रहा है, राइट. सो वोटर्स रोल क्या है यहाँ पे? डायरेक्ट इलेक्शन में वोट डायरेक्टली फॉर मेंबर्स ऑफ लेजिस्लेचर. लेजिस्लेचर दोनों है, सेंट्रल स्टेट दोनों आ जाता है. सो वो डायरेक्टली फॉर मेंबर्स ऑफ लेजिस्लेचर, लाइक मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट, मेंबर ऑफ लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली, MP, MLA. इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्शन में वोट फॉर अ स्मॉलर बॉडी, एग्जांपल इलेक्टोरल कॉलेज और पंचायत, व्हिच मेक द फाइनल चॉइस. डायरेक्ट इलेक्शन में ट्रांसपेरेंसी लेवल क्या होता है? हाई होता है भाई डायरेक्ट इलेक्शन में. सो हाई, पीपल नो एग्जैक्टली whom they vote for. Whereas in indirect representative, transparency is very less. So less transparent, final representative is chosen indirectly. So examples इंडिया में डायरेक्ट इलेक्शन का जैसे लोकसभा, स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली जैसे MLA कहते हैं. And in indirect representation is Rajya Sabha elected by the MLAs, President elected by the MPs and MLAs. That's what it is, the indirect election. So level of participation in direct election is high, direct participation of people. Whereas in indirect representation, the level of participation is lower, filtered participation through another group. So Charter Act 1853 के context में क्या है exactly? So direct representation, first indirect local representation. Local governments nominated 4 members to legislative council. Nominated, not elected. Understand the differences. Okay, the first indirect local representation. Local government nominated 4 members to legislative council. And indirect representation, not yet full public elections. Indians were not voting directly yet. इसलिए तो nominated हुआ ना, elected नहीं थे. ठीक है. तो सिंपल एनालॉजी हम इधर समझेंगे. डायरेक्ट यू वोट फॉर द कैप्टन ऑफ योर टीम. डायरेक्ट इसमें क्या होता है? यू वोट फॉर द कैप्टन ऑफ योर टीम. इनडायरेक्ट में यू वोट फॉर द कमिटी एंड दे सेलेक्ट द कैप्टन. ये हो गया. दिस इज व्हाट द इनडायरेक्ट इलेक्शन है. आप डायरेक्ट कैप्टन को इलेक्ट कर रहे हो, पूरा टीम कैप्टन को इलेक्ट कर रहा है, डायरेक्ट हो गया. इनडायरेक्ट आपने कमेटी को इलेक्ट वोट करके बैठे, फिर टाइम कमेटी कैप्टन डिसाइड कर रहा है. तो relevance in Indian polity है, of course India uses both direct election in Lok Sabha, State Assembly, indirect election in Rajya Sabha, President, Legislative Council. Now we will jump to what is the council. अभी इतना council हम पढ़ रहे हैं, so what exactly the council is? So meaning, so council is a formal, it's a formal, not informal, okay? A council is a formal advisory or decision making body that helps in governance or administration. It's a formal advisory or decision making body that helps in governance or administration. It can be legislative. Legislative, as we said, it's about making laws. So it can be legislative, it can be executive, advises on policies, or local handles municipal affairs. In Indian polity or British India context, councils were formed to assist and check the powers of governor, viceroy, or even king. That's what councils are. So who are councillors? So meaning a councillor is a member of council. Council का member है तो councillors बोलेंगे. They deliberate, debate, advise, and sometimes vote on decision on laws. Their role depends on the type of council they are part of. ठीक है? So in British India, like the Charter Act of 1853, like we are talking about, the Legislative Council was created as part of the Governor General Council. Legislative councillors helped in drafting laws, discuss and debated policies, did not yet have full independent power, but they laid the foundation for parliamentary government in India. That's why 1853 is actually very important act, and that's where concepts, actually there are multiple concepts here, terms here. That's how the future been decided. So in the legislative council, now we are talking about the 1853 so did not yet fully independent powers, but they laid the foundation. Wherever you hear the word foundation, mark it. But they laid the foundation for parliamentary government in India. So in present India, like in municipal bodies, municipal councillors are elected by the people in local areas or wards, जो हम वार्ड बोलते हैं, नगर सेवक हम जनरली उनको एड्रेस करते हैं. So municipal councillors are elected by the people in local areas. Their duties include managing local issues like sanitation, water, lighting, etc., approving budgets for their wards, and listening to grievances of people and taking action. ये नगर सेवक का काम होता है, councillors का काम होता है. ठीक है? तो सिंपल टेबल समझते इसके पीछे. काउंसिल को क्या? फॉर्मल ग्रुप दैट एडवाइजेस और गवर्न. Councillors, a member of council involved in decision making or law making. 1833 Act, legislative councillors advise the Governor General on legislative matters. In today's India, local councillors solve ward level civic and governance issues. This is what it is. So, okay. So end of company rule 1773 से लेके हमने कवर किया 1853 तक. इसके बाद तो रिवॉल्ट हुआ, फिर Crown rule आया. We will definitely cover that. So what we have covered so far: Regulating Act of 1773, Pitt's India Act of 1784, Charter Act of 1813, 1833, and now 1853. So key theme ही था ये सब में, centralization of power and British parliamentary power, British parliamentary control. So plus we understood the multiple terms and concepts like Governor General, and was there the Governor General of Bengal, and what general mean, and also what is the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive, where we use these terms, where we do not use inclusive. And right now also we covered the council like terms, central and decentralization, the difference legislative and executive, what it means. So there are multiple terms we have covered in this company rule, and of course I have created the playlist as well. So I would suggest here to go through each lecture. You will definitely introduce to the terms and concepts and whatnot, and it will definitely help you in coming lectures and overall polity in general, overall in examination point of view. And also you will definitely going to get my notes on Telegram channel, Avinaash Polity Insights. Join, and also I regularly upload MCQs, they're highly conceptual based MCQs, factual based MCQs, so on polls basis, so you will also get explanation directly there. So coming up will be Crown Rule 1858 से लेके 1947, of course, starting with the Government of India 1858, which is after revolt. And again, come join, download the notes on my Telegram channel, Avinash Polity Insights, AVINAASHPOLITYINSIGHTS, Avinash Polity Insights. Subscribe to this channel. Of course, the upcoming series would be the Crown Rule series. And thank you for watching. Jai Hind.